sorry for the delay. So lovely to have you here today for the free live tarot seminar in our How to Be. Am I in the right group? Wait a minute, give me a second. Yes, I am. I often do this. I go live in my post and then suddenly everyone's contacting me that are my friends and family going, what are you doing here? Hello everyone. If you are joining me live, just pop your name in the chat box so that I know that you can hear me okay and that you can see me okay. I'm very excited to present this live tarot seminar for you this month. Those of you who haven't done this before, I try to do these every second month. So I do one in How to Be Psychic 1 month, which is dealing with oracle cards and looking at mediumship and looking at connections with your spirit guides and angels. And in this one, I do our tarot course from Tarot Card Success. So if you are here joining me live, pop your name. Hello, Amber from the UK. I love it when people come and see me from Europe and the UK because I know how hard it is to get to this time slot. It's lining up the time that works with India, the 3 time zones in the US and Canada and Australia is almost an impossible feat. So thank you. Thank you. Hi Tracy, hi Lizanne, hello Kylie, hello Cynthia. Thank you everyone for joining me. So I'm so excited about this seminar because we've been getting so many great questions in the group and I really wanted to, and I know not everyone's in the group all the time, and those of you who are watching this, who I've sent this out to through your Udemy announcements, you know, if you're not even in the Facebook group, I want to make sure that you're getting just as much value as well and you're getting just as many tips and strategies as people who are in the group. And we've had some fantastic questions this month that I really want to help address with the tarot. Some of them which we haven't had before, which always excites me. And so I'm going to explore those for you. We're going to look at doing legal readings and conflict and with bosses and how to manage that ethically. We're also going to answer the question about using tarot cards with mediumship and how that can work, and, you know, I guess kind of the do's and the don'ts. We're going to look at I've lost my train. Oh, we're going to look at infidelity cards. So someone's asked that before. I have covered that before, but I know it's a popular topic. And we're going to look at, so Charlene asked the question about that fear of giving a reading and there's negative cards in the future and how to deal with that. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about dealing and managing that. So hello Cynthia, hello Sierra, hello Gillian, hello Bridget, hello Peg and Tracy Lee and Leanne and Lizanne and Kim and Janae, that's a beautiful name, and Kuranawan, hello. Hello Mariana. So, from Bali. Gosh, I miss Mama Bali. I really do. I'm missing it. I've been posting on my Instagram post all week about Bali and how much I miss it because this time last year I was in Bali, never realizing that it would take me, well, if you live in Australia, forever to get back on a plane. So yes, missing it very much. Hello Mariana from Colombia. Hello Tiara from Tiara. Okay, excellent. Oh, spirits kept coming through with the tarot, Amber. So Amber says she's taking an accredited qualification to become a psychic medium because she learnt tarot from me and spirits kept coming during tarot readings. So that's awesome that I'm talking about it. Yes, excellent. Yes, that's perfectly timed. I love that. Hi, Angelica. So for those of you who haven't been to one of these before, how I like to kind of run it is I'm going to talk about these topics and then at the end if you could ask me questions because it's just a bit easier than me, because what happens is I tend to just ramble on and then I go off track and people come back to me the next day and go, Sal, you didn't answer that question you said you'd answer. So if you could hold all questions to the end, that would be fantastic. And if you see someone pop a question in who comes late, just let's say she's going to answer questions at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Before we do, I just want to send out a big thank you, shout out, love to everyone who reviewed Tarot Card Success and any of my other courses this month. Anyone who took that extra time to write the comments, I really appreciate it. Thank you to Tracy Sardinia, Neha Madika, Michelle Dennington, Bridget Demise, and Turio Garcia, and everyone else who took that time. Thank you so much. It means so much to me that you review it on Udemy. It really helps me a lot and it helps other students too if they want to learn tarot and they're not sure if it's the right course for them. So thank you for that. I'm also going to talk to you about at the end about a webinar that I've got coming up about how to read tarot intuitively. So I'll talk to you that at the end too, that is coming up in the next few months, and my new course that's coming out hopefully by May. I can see Melissa Herb out there going, you've been saying that for 4 months, Sal, on tarot reversals, but I will talk about that as well. So let's get started with Shalini's wonderful question that she asked this month in the group about how to deal with negative cards. Now, the first thing I would say is it's one of the roles of being a reader is you are going to come across negative cards and people are going to have negative journeys. And learning what I call is discernment, and that is discerning between, I guess, like a doctor or a nurse does, where you have to just try to stay in that space of doing the best you can by them, but not taking responsibility for their story, is one of the journeys that every psychic and tarot reader and healer has to go through. Like, that is part of your job description, I guess. And even though it's not nice to deliver bad news or to let people know that maybe they're in for a rocky ride, ways that I usually handle it are, I do explore this a lot more in some of the intermediate courses, so you'll see me talk about that a lot more in how to give career readings and life purpose readings and psychic readings intermediate level. But the way I generally handle it is I just say, I indicate that, okay, so say they get the Tower or, the Three of Swords at the end of the reading, and you're a bit like, I don't want to tell them this, like they're asking about the future of a marriage of someone they're involved with, or they're asking about this job, or if they're going to, be successful in their business, and you get all these negative cards at the end. The first thing to know is that the journey of the tarot, especially in a bigger spread, like in a Celtic cross or in a horseshoe, the journey of the tarot will give people plenty of wisdom and steps along the way to avoid some of those catastrophic cards that come in at the end. So it's almost like, so say in the U position, for example, in the Celtic cross and in the horseshoe, if you can gauge in that position how they are feeling and then connect that with that final card, you might find that, hey, you're feeling like this right now, but if you can shift this, then the future card will change. So it's almost like, okay, and this is what I talk about. I talk about this a lot in those intermediate level courses about your blind spots. So a negative card can just say, hey, look out for this. It doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. So that's the first thing to remember. There is also that technique that I talk about, pulling an extra card. And I realised I hadn't taught that in this course, but I talk about it in the health course. And I answered somebody's question on the Q&A board about this today, because he said that he'd actually drawn 10 extra cards before he got a positive one. And I've never heard of that happening before. That's like, whoa. Like, for me, the most I've ever got is I draw a negative card at the end if I get the Tower, and then another one, and then maybe a third one, and then the fourth one might be positive. If that's happening, so if you draw, so say you get to the end and you pull your additional card and say, listen, if you learn this lesson, the quickest you can learn it. So with the Tower, the quickest way you can learn the Tower's lesson is to go through and take responsibility for your actions. And it might be the hardest thing to do. Like, say you've been in a relationship and your partner's cheated on you and it's all fallen apart. It might just mean going back and going, hey, did I already know that about them before we got involved? Or, hey, maybe I was a bit negligent, or maybe I didn't read the signs, or, like trying to find a way to go, okay, how were my foundations weak in this relationship? And not blame yourself, but look at that. And the quicker you can do that, the quicker you will move through the next part of the journey and get to what you want and get to that happiness. And so the more cards you have, for me, it means the longer it's going to take you. But you can speed that up in your own free will by taking on board the lesson of each of the cards, because every card has a lesson. So on a subtle diplomatic way, you can say, okay, look, it looks like this could be on the cards. There could be a situation where it feels like the whole world's going to collapse around you. Don't worry. This is how you can handle and manage it. And that way you're giving them back their power. And the doom and gloom reading with no chance to give anyone back their power is really, it's really detrimental to people's mental health, especially at this time right now. So trying to find that balance, that's part of your beautiful job as a reader, and you will find it. It does take practice. And look, and please don't get me wrong, like, there's still times for me, even after 12, 13 years of giving professional readings, where a dark card will come out and I go, oh, I wish you weren't there. What are you doing? Go away. Like, it's natural to feel a little bit confronted by those cards, but find that way to believe in yourself and get this person to believe that only through those dark things can we find our light. Like, our light can only come through the dark. And so that's part of our spiritual journey here on earth. And And it's not that we're here to suffer, it's that it's hard to find relief, and it's hard to find enlightenment and joy and progress and evolution without some suffering. So that's why sometimes those cards do come up for those people. So learning to sort of accept that this is just this person's journey and something good will come out of it is part of what can help that. So I hope that has helped, Shalini. And for those of you who have ever pulled, tons and tons of negative cards as your final card. The second question I would like to deal with is Bisma has asked about infidelity in relationships. This is such a common question. The first thing I will say to you, and those of you who've heard this before, my apologies, if you're going to do love readings, like on a serious level beyond just, like basic love readings, I do recommend doing my love readings course. I know it's annoying to be told just go and do another course, but this course is very much a foundation to learn basic readings. Going up to asking infidelity questions and looking at relationships and deceit and looking at things like when will I meet my soulmate and a lot of that stuff, they're more advanced readings. So in that course, I go into I literally have a whole module all on infidelity and cheating and the ethical way to deal with it. So off the top of my head, the first two cards that indicate deceit or interference are the Three of Cups and the Seven of Swords. But it goes way beyond that. You've got to remember, this is also where are they positioned in the spread? Have you pulled them as an additional card? Like if you've asked, is this person cheating on me, and you get a Seven of Swords, and then you pull an additional card and get a Three of Cups. Okay, yeah, that may indicate interference, but also it can be. Infidelity is just such a vast word. I mean, have they kissed someone? Have they text flirted someone? Have they sent them a rude picture over a text message? I don't know why people do that, but have they done that? Like, are they having a full-blown affair from 3 years? Like, it's just too vague. Has it crossed their mind? Has it someone they've flirted with? So I always say with infidelity, just say, what do I need to know about my relationship with this person? If deceitful cards come up like the Seven of Swords, or the Three of Swords, or the Death or the Tower, then go, okay, well, where do I need to go deeper here? But straight out saying there is infidelity for me, I think is just too black and white and doesn't cover the full spectrum of it. So that's how I would roll with that. And I've spoken about that in one of my courses, I can't remember which one, about sometimes interference can be a mother-in-law, it can be a boss, it can be a friend, nattering away in the year going, that person's not good enough for you, or come away on a holiday with me and we can do naughty things. Like, it doesn't always have to be a romantic entanglement, and that's why it's such a complex question. So just keep that in mind, and look, feel very free. And I actually, sadly enough, had to ask somebody to leave the How to Be Psychic group last year because they were constantly contacting people for readings and asking the question, has my partner been unfaithful to me? And people were uncomfortable with this. And so if you are uncomfortable with answering this question, you are well within your rights to say, I'm not comfortable answering that. I'm not the right reader for you if that makes you feel uncomfortable. So keep that in mind with your beautiful, beautiful boundaries. Okay, so I hope that's helped. Woo, I took the love readings course. It's great. Thank you. Yeah, look, it does go into those much more advanced. So just think now, just play around with those simple, what do I need to know about my relationships in this particular course? And then you might want to go deeper and more advanced with that. Now, Bawana had this great conversation that got kicked off earlier because she had a client who had come along and asked her about a court case or a conflict resolution case that had gone through with their boss and who was going to win the case, and trying to answer that with yes, no, and figuring out what the answer was, and the client wanted them to say, well, will my boss win, after they'd already done, like after she'd already done the reading to say who would win out of him and the boss, and then saying, will my boss win? What are the probability of that? Now, those of you might have read my answer to this already, but I really wanted to go into it because it's such a great question. First of all, any kind of legal disputes, whether it be divorce cases, whether it be bosses and human resources, or anything to do with court cases, every time you've got to remember, if you're a beginner, you need to be very cautious of this, because you've got to be making sure that your clients are not taking your spiritual advice and guidance as legal advice and guidance. Like, that is a really messy area to get yourself into, particularly if you're looking at divorce cases, because that's impacting on children. That's a huge thing. So you've got to be really conscious of that. And so I always do any kind of readings with divorce or any kind of law or any kind of legal stuff with the disclosure that I'm not a lawyer and I can't really offer you legal advice, but I can give you some spiritual advice and guidance. Start from that with the reading. Now, and I mentioned a lot in that answer, but some of you have seen me speak about this before. Asking, will I win a case, yes, no, for me is incredibly limited. And also, it doesn't really take into nature the full spectrum of what legal cases involve. So any of you out there who have ever been involved in any kind of legal dispute know that these things don't usually get resolved in 3 weeks. They can drag on for years. And there can be roller coasters. Like, things can go up and down, and you can have a win and then a loss, or you can have to appeal it, or you can get half of what you want but then not the whole thing. And also, what I mentioned in that answer to Bawana is that also, like, someone's perspective of what a win. So if you're going to ask a question like, will my boss win this case against me? Like, the boss's idea of what a win is might be totally different to the objective of what the client's win is. So you've got to remember that when you're phrasing questions. And that's why I always say, go back to, what do I need to know about this court case between my boss and I? And say the boss's name, and then do a 7-card spread or a Celtic cross so you get a big, massive picture. Don't do a 3-card spread, because legal stuff is very rarely resolved in, a couple of months. And 3 cards for me, or yes or no, will I win 1 card? Like, it's never going to tell you the full spectrum of what goes on in a legal case. Like, as I said, it's very rare that you just get a big, massive yes or a big, massive no. And it also gives you nothing to work with and nothing to prepare for. So when I've done divorce and custody case readings before, and when I've done, I've done a few workers' comp cases and things like that with my clients over the years, I've always wanted to have them walk away from the reading and have something to do, like homework. Something that comes from the guidance that's going to give them more power and give them a better hope and give them a better chance. Just coming to me for a fortune telling, am I going to win? Yes, no, it gives them nothing. And I know it sounds strange, but you've got to remember the reason we go through in this human evolution and incarnation of ourselves, the reason we go through these horrendous experiences of ending up in court cases, no matter what the situation, is because we have a spiritual lesson to learn from it. There's something that we need for us to grow and evolve, as hard as that can be. And if we're not, like, we're kind of denying our journey if we just try to go win or lose. Like, it's basically then, because there's nothing you can do with that. So please avoid the yes/no questions, especially with legal. Try to give your client as much perspective and as much wisdom to work with as possible, as many things that they need to go away and think about and put into action as possible. And again, let them know, as much as people hate to hear it, that law things take time. They might progress. And so that's why I say, how will this case evolve in the next, 12 to 15 months? Because the case could go on for 4 years. So, and things change so much in those years. Like, that person might decide to just give up on the case after 2 years and decide to move on. Like, so as I said, it's much better to just try to look at it from a bigger picture thing, but in a smaller time framework. So I hope that helps. And as I mentioned in that thing with yes/no questions, if you're really obsessed with wanting to know yes/no 1 card as soon as possible, or those multiple choices, I do recommend doing the career readings course, because I've just released that and it's got hours upon hours about that kind of stuff, and it will help you more. But as I said, just be conscious that the world is seldom yes/no. It really is. It's seldom yes/no. So I hope that has helped Bawana and anyone else who was interested in legal stuff. So I'm now going to move on to, and I'm so sorry, I've totally forgotten who's asked me this question, mediumship and the tarot. So somebody asked me, if I think about it long enough, it'll come to me, but it's gone. Leanne, sorry for that, asked me about mediumship and how to use tarot before and after a mediumship session. Now, I have mentioned this before, so sorry if you haven't caught this before. So something to remember with the tarot is it really is primarily for your spiritual lesson here on earth. It's not about someone else's spiritual lesson unless they're your children. It's about your spiritual lesson. So if someone you love has passed over, and you're doing a reading about them and they've passed over, for me, it's like I can't almost see the point of that. And I'll tell you why. Because it's like, well, what if you get the Tower and you get, the 4 of Swords and you're like, okay, well, now they just have to rest. But it's like that's not really helping you. What helps you with medium sessions is getting a medium session done by a professional medium, that kind of psychic communication. But if you're doing one yourself, what I would do before a medium session for a client is maybe just pull 3 cards. And look, I have to say, personally, I would use the psychic tarot before I would use the tarot to do that personally. Only because the psychic tarot, like I'm not really sure how I would interpret the Page of Swords personally in a mediumship reading for someone who's about to do that. Like I feel like, yeah, that doesn't kind of ring true for me. So I would go, okay, let's look at the psychic tarot, which it's an oracle card deck that takes the themes of the tarot. And let's do just a little 3-card spread before we do this session about what you need out of this medium session, because it has to be about the client. It's about their grief and their journey and what they need. And so I'd use it for that. And then I would actually probably at the end go, okay, what is my journey from here? Now that we've done this session, and mediumship sessions are designed to be quite healing, like with resolution and understanding and grief and moving on and all trying to move on, then I would actually do a 3-card spread, like a little one, again, just a gentle one, like something from the psychic tarot, like, okay, what is my journey from here on? What do I need to know now with this situation, with this death of a loved one? So that's probably how I would personally use them. Of course, other readers might think and do it differently. That's just how I would manage that kind of situation in a session for me. So I hope that has helped. So just maybe using something like the psychic tarot and doing a little pre and a little after, but not a big spread, just something little to give them a little bit of guidance before we start. And again, focus on what is my spiritual journey with this situation. And so I think that's everything. Have I answered everything? Oh my God, I'm on fire. Yes, I have. Okay, that was really quick. I thought I'd answer more then. So I hope that's helped people with those questions. I'm going to scan through now and answer anything that anyone else has asked. Hello, Joanna. Hello, Susanna. Hello, Amber. So if you've got any further questions or any follow-ups from what I've just talked about then, please pop it in. And then I'm going to move on to talking about my reversals course that I'm hoping is coming out at the end of April, beginning of May. And I'm going to talk about the webinar that I'm going to be doing. Let's have a look. Oh, Amber. Amber says she feels awkward doing legal readings. Yes, please keep that in mind. That people get very kind of anxious and worried when they're doing tarot readings and when they're learning tarot, because they think they have to answer every question that someone brings them. And you don't. Like if you're not comfortable with something, say I'm not comfortable or I'm a beginner, that's not where I'm up to yet. Like it's really important to have those boundaries. Amber, I once had a question about divorce and if they will win the case to keep the child with them. I felt like it's not my place to give them false hope just in case, so I ended up not answering. And I know that's well within your rights, and there are those out there over the year who have criticised me, which, you know, they're very welcome to, when I say that. And they've said, well, you know, if someone's come and paid you for that answer and you're saying no. So for me in those situations, I just say, sorry, I'm not the right reader for you. And I'll give them back their money, because it's, you know, like I'll go, look, I can't, if I'm not comfortable with something, I won't do it. Especially those spying questions that I talk about, the what does my boyfriend think about me kind of thing. Those questions, which I find are really not great questions to be asking. So just keep that in mind. The tarot is not designed to answer every question in the universe. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about, because I know that my brain's gone again. Dr. Swati answered that question about using the tarot to do medical readings where you diagnose a disease. So you say, you know, and I mentioned, she said, you know, can you do that? Can you do a course on that? Because I already have a course on health readings. It's completely separate. That's called Master Health Readings and Psychic Wellness. And that's for health readings and fertility readings, and also like chronic health issues. And it's also for if you want to be a professional psychic and you need to look after yourself and avoid that burnout. So that looking after your own health. But in that course, I don't say, okay, this card equals a thyroid disease, or this card equals lupus, or this card equals Epstein-Barr, or this card equals diabetes. Because in my personal opinion, and other people might totally disagree with me, I don't think the tarot is designed for that. And that's for me just a logical thing, because the tarot was invented, well, the modern tarot, the Rider-Waite in 1909, and things like lupus and that, they didn't come around till the 40s, and Epstein-Barr. So there's no way those creators could have even embedded that in the card's meaning. Now, you might say, but hey, Sal, I saw someone on YouTube or I saw someone on Google who'd written a cheat sheet for the 3 of, you know, like the 7 of Swords, meaning my foot's going to fall off or whatever. The 6 of Swords means I'm going to get Alzheimer's or whatever. Like, there might be someone who has come up with that, but that's their own intuitive interpretation of the tarot. It's not how I was taught, so that's why I don't kind of teach it that way. My health course teaches more about health readings from a perspective of, okay, where did this health issue come from? How is the journey going to be? Like, so things like, if I have an operation, how will that go? Things like, how long am I going to have this back pain for? Like the journey of anything to do with how it's been caused, suggestions on healing, which are intuitive as well, and just what the spiritual journey is behind your health. So more than just identifying what disease. And I think and the reason why I created it like that is because my personal question is I don't think that tarot readers should be detecting diseases. I think that's something more of an intuitive anatomy thing, or definitely more of a professional doctor thing. And the reason I created that health course as a completely separate course for more intermediate people that have already completed this course is because it's quite dangerous, in my opinion, to do health readings, because you're messing with people's lives, and so you need to make sure you've got some experience and knowledge of the cards and you're kind of respecting them. So yeah, I hope that helps with anyone who's thinking about the health situation. I do recommend doing my course on that. But again, as I said, it's not something that's going to tell you that the magician means, that you've got Crohn's disease. It doesn't. For me, that's not how the tarot works. It doesn't. It works on a deeper level, but also sort of, what the duration of the journey is and what the journey is and how to prevent it and how to look out for problems with the health. So I hope that has helped. So I'm just going to keep going in. Here, we know that the soul is energy and after death, soul takes on another body. If that's the case, then how do we contact with departed soul and mediumship? Honey, I'm not sorry. I'll just quickly say, I am not teaching mediumship in this course. I do recommend that you do How to Be Psychic, because I talk about that in that course. So yeah, that's much better. We're only talking about tarot. I just wanted to talk about tarot and mediumship combined with that one. Can you put that in that course, because it's better left for that one, only because I don't want to go on the whole mediumship thing here, because what happens when I answer big questions like that is people go, oh, I missed the mediumship section in your course, and I'm like, no, there is no mediumship section in this course. So just look at that as well. So if you're looking at the departed soul and mediumship, so when they've passed over, that I deal with that a lot more in How to Be Psychic, so I can recommend that for that. Chelsea, great question. How to best approach timing questions. So the first thing I will say is the tarot already has a very natural inbuilt timing strategy, I guess, and you'll learn that in this course. And that is, if you look at a generalized time section, like in the next 3 months with a 3-card reading, the 7-card readings and the 10-card readings that you learn later in this course will give you the basic kind of time blueprints for what happens in the next 12 months to say 15 months. So it already has an inbuilt time thing as well. For me, and please, if you really want to do timing questions, go and do How to Give career readings and life purpose readings, because I go into that a lot more in that. Like, I have big, massive sections on it. But very briefly, specific time is a lot more complicated, because there is no tarot card that says March the 17th. Like, there's no card for me that says August. A lot of that stuff is intuition. And then people will say to me, but Sal, I went and saw this tarot reader and they said that, in June I was going to meet the man I was going to marry, and I met him. And I was like, yes, that's probably intuition. Intuition comes in, like they're speaking to their guides and angels, and then they get a marriage card, and then the voice comes in and says June. So that's, for me, how timing works. There are ways you can do timing, but it's a huge, as I said, it's like something like I do a 2-hour part of it in courses of how you can get the when. But for now, at this beginner's level, just stick to what I teach in this course. So with each client, you'll see if you get a good victory card in the next 3 months, then you can know that something's probably going to happen that they want in the next 3 months. If it's within the 3-month to 9-month period, you can give that to them. As I mentioned before, if you there's no sign. So say, for example, they're wanting to know how to get a job, or if they're going to get a job and when they're going to get a job. And there's nothing that shows up in the 12-month period that says, yay, like the Ace of Pentacles or, victory. It's all dark and doom and gloom. First of all, tell them, okay, there's some lessons for them to shift. When you get to the final card, pull an additional card and keep pulling until you get a positive one. And that kind of gives a better indication of how many lessons they need to learn before they get victory. So that's another way that you can do it. So that's just a few ways. As I said, I have more suggestions in the career reading and life purpose reading course. But for now, at this very beginner level, just stick with the time frames that are in the horseshoe and in the Celtic Cross and just your little 3-card spreads. I hope that helps, Chelsea. Okay, so Amber, if there's a card you feel blocked with or don't like, yes, I do a whole session on this. Sorry, I'll finish Amber's question. If there's a card that you feel blocked with or you don't like, does that mean that it is your own personal blockage? 100% yes. So in my 3-month Advanced Tarot programs, that's my VIP program I do on the Psychic Healing Academy, one of the big things I do in the first week with everyone is I get them to examine what is your nemesis card. And sometimes you might have a few, but one that shows up again and again and you go blank, you don't know, you're like, oh, this card drives me crazy. A lot of people, funnily enough, it's judgment. They can't understand the concepts behind judgment. And for me, yes, it's often that's your biggest block, and that's why you resist it, and you might hear me or another tarot teacher or another tarot book 50 times tell you what it means, but it never goes in. Yes, that's definitely a block. And it's good because it's a signal for you. So I'd say definitely the 5 of Swords might be one of your blocks. So yeah, the meaning's not sticking. I 100% agree with that. Oh, Gillian, it's in the later part. You haven't finished. You have the worst time tapping into your intuition and not overthinking everything. How should I start better working on that? Right. Okay. So yeah. So look, the best thing for me when I was struggling with my intuition and trusting myself is I do tapping. I have a whole course on this it's called Boost Your Psychic Gifts with EFT tapping, and it's designed specifically for people who really struggle to trust the messages and trust their intuition, get nervous while they're doing readings. It has all my exact strategies that I use just before I do a reading. It's very gentle, so either you could do my course, it's on Udemy, or you can do someone else's course on tapping and learn to apply it yourself. But yeah, look, I would look at that, because if you're feeling blocked intuitively when you're reading and you really want to learn to read more intuitively, then I'd look at doing a little bit of healing it yourself. And you can do it at the same time as you're learning this course. There's no rush. I mean, those two could very easily go side by side. I wouldn't say all my courses are, that you'd want to do them at the same time, but those two would work because it's quite simple and straightforward, and you can just do it a couple of times a week and, and notice your own improvement. So don't worry that intuition thing, it's very common for a lot of readers to overthink and to get worried and anxious. And just keep working through this. And as you get closer to the end, you'll get more of those bigger spreads with the timing, and you can just start very small and just go, you know what, I don't, and that's probably the biggest problem and I would tap on that too, biggest problem that beginning readers have is they think they have to be like someone who's had 20 years professional experience, rather than just being a gorgeous novice who's just playing and just starting and just learning. So yeah, definitely I would look at my course or look at doing some kind of just gentle healing on yourself as you're doing this course at the same time. And when you get triggered and stuff comes up, like you do a spread and you start to panic, you can just do a little bit of that tapping like I teach in that. You're welcome, Chelsea. Will I be making any more guided meditations? You've done some courses. If you did one specifically on meditation, mindfulness. Oh, okay. No, that's definitely, look, I have an idea brewing in the back of my, I call it the toy box, for something I want to do at the end of the year. So I could definitely add something in for that, definitely. So that's, yes, the guided meditation thing, that's definitely in there. It's in the toy box. You are welcome, Gillian. So if anyone's got any other questions, just pop them in. And while that's going on, I'll quickly mention that, as I said, I'm hoping to release my reversals course around about May, late April. I'm hoping that's going to come out by then. So where I go through this whole course and just basically turn it upside down. But also I'll be exploring blockages as well, because I know people do spreads. It's not what I teach in any of the courses I've done so far, but there's a course that there are people that do spreads that are saying, what's my block? And they get a card and they've got no idea how to interpret that. So I'll kind of go through that as well. I also wanted to talk about how I'm hoping at the end of April, I'm going to be doing a webinar. Some of you might have attended some of my webinars before about the five essential tips to read tarot intuitively. So I'm going to be doing that hopefully at the end of April. I try to do it once a year. Sometimes it's only once every 2 years. And it is something that you just sign up for, and it's more of a formal presentation than this. It has like slides, and it's a bit more formalized. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. So just look out for that as well. So that for those of you who are trying to read more intuitively, that can help with that as well. So if anybody's got any more questions, just pop them in. And thank you so much. I'm going to scan through now because sometimes people ask questions and I miss it because the Facebook feed goes super duper fast. Oh, hello, Kim from New Zealand. Thou who has handled coronavirus better than anyone else on the planet with your gorgeous Prime Minister that we all love. Amber, I received on Sunday the Tower and the Three of Swords, and it's been stalking you lately. Oh, it's nothing worse when those cards stalk you like that. I always, like when I get those combinations, I'm always like, oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, bring it on. What is it? But do call in your guides and angels and just ask them for extra help and protection and to move through it really quickly. That's what I do with those. Hello, Chandana from India. Now, has anyone else popped any questions in? How do you deal with people testing you and you tell you they're waiting for you to mention something specific, but you're respecting their boundaries and not wanting to seem like you're a cold read? Chelsea, that is such a great question. When you can tell they're waiting for you to mention something specific. Okay, so, sorry, can you just phrase that again? So, that's two different questions. How to deal with people testing you. You can tell they're waiting for you to mention something specific. So it's okay to do a cold reading. Can you give me an example of that? Is that okay? I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. I'll start with the first part. How do you deal with people testing you? So there's two ways to deal with this. The first way is I make it a practice at the beginning of every day that I'm doing readings to say, only bring me people who I can help and who I can heal. And I do a lot, and this is again part of your job, I guess, as a reader, and I talk about this in the psychic wellness part of the Master Health course, is your job is to keep your vibration as high as possible. And as part of, just as important as buying tarot cards and learning tarot cards is to, and part of that for me is I do daily prayers when I'm working with clients to only send me people that I can help and heal. And I find I don't get, and especially as I got more and more experience, I just didn't get those people that tested me anymore. They just didn't come in under my radar. So if they're coming in, know that it happens to every reader, by the way. You're definitely not alone. Be very patient with them. Be very compassionate with them. Try not to let your ego get up and try not to, battle with them. And, and just say very calmly and lovingly. I remember, I think one of the examples I use in one of my courses is, someone sitting there with their arms crossed going, how many grandchildren do I have? So, if you're a real psychic, how many grandchildren do I have? And I said, look, I could sit here and spend 7.5 minutes trying to figure that out. I could tune into the angels, I could guides, I could do a huge meditation, or you could just tell me what you want to really know because you already know how many grandchildren you have. So I don't really see the point in paying me money for me to verify that. And I think there was something that happened to me with my journey where I stopped just needing to prove myself. I just said, but if you want me to do that, I will try and do that. But why are you really here? What do you really want? And look, also keep in mind that sometimes, unfortunately, people's negativity and their cynicism and their anger even, like people can often come to you when they're angry and trying to test you from an angry perspective and you're kind of like, what are you doing here? But they can be doing that. So I find coming into the most unconditional love, it probably helps that I used to be a high school teacher, so I've had a fair bit of training in that, but coming into that space of unconditional love and just energetically sending them love and just coming into that space of just calmly talking to them and just being like, okay, well, what is it you really want to know? And, how can I best help you with that? And also understand that sometimes you might make a guess and get it wrong, and that's okay because sometimes it might be them who's kind of putting this big massive wall between you. and that can be throwing you off with the nerves. And again, that's why I know I mentioned it before. That's why I love the tapping. That's why every time before I do a reading, I actually have a little tapping ritual that I do to keep myself very clear and vibe high. I hope that helps, my love. Oh, I've got lots of questions. So I hope that helps, Chelsea, but please add anything if I didn't interpret that question correctly. Hola, Tere. Barwana, is it possible the readings done by two different readers about the same question go different? Yes. East and West. I did a reading for a client. It came out that her relationship will only bring pain and lots of adjustments. She was in a relationship with a married man, and at that moment, cards told that he was happy in his marriage for now, and she would suffer lots of biased emotions if she got together. Therefore, I handled quite softly as per suggestions provided by the tarot. She got another reading from another reader and was told almost similar thing, and after a week the reader called my client and told the cards have changed now, and it seems he's about to put a marriage proposal and come back to her. My client told me this has happened, and she still feels my prediction is right. Now I'm confused because my reading was like something to move on, and the other reading came with a totally different one. Okay, first, that's a great question. Thank you. I hope everyone caught my super duper chipmunk speed version of that. So in essence, a client comes, asks the same question of two different readers and gets different answers. First of all, this is why I really recommend to everyone to not do psychic shopping. Second of all, different things can happen with readings. And one of the examples I use in, I think it's my love course, I can't remember, is I can remember when I and my husband, we'd been together for 6 months and we went through this, it had been going gangbusters, it was fantastic. And then it just bang, it was pretty much going to be over. And I can remember going into work at the time, and I was a manager of all these tarot readers. I wasn't professional then, I was just the manager of the shop. And I was devastated. And I got that, I'm ashamed to say it, I got 4 or 5 different readings from each of my readers. Every day I got a different one because I just needed to know. I was just distraught and heartbroken. And they all said something different. And it taught me that actually the mindset of what you are in when you go to see a tarot reader is going to be different each time. So keep that in mind. Secondly, the bias of a reader can come through. It's hard for us not to. And I can remember talking to one of the readers that gave me a positive happy ever after, well, not happy ever after, you know what I mean, marriage, get together with my husband. And she mentioned, she said, look, I know that reader, and in the nicest way possible, I know she's got some issues with men that might have come through for her own because she had a bad marriage. So that can happen. I'm not saying that's what happened to you, but that can happen. So it can be their mindset on the day. It can be the individual reader. It can be just what that person needs to hear for that day as well. Don't forget their own soul journey. But don't worry about it if it happens. It's hard to let go of when you feel like you've got it wrong. Go with, okay, this is just how I'm feeling, and trust that, because the world can be very complicated and questions can come through very complicated. So yeah, maybe things will shift in her favor, but they might go back. He might go back to the wife. Like, you've got to remember that things are just so much more complex. So go with what's in front of you. Go with the first thing that comes through and trust it. But do say, if someone ever comes to you and says, but hey, I saw a tarot reader last week and they're telling me something totally opposite to you, I would first of all say, look, it's really not a good idea to shop around, because whatever that person told you, you probably need to implement some of that first before, like, you're just testing the tarot for me. And I know it sounds strange, but for me, the tarot is a sentient being that doesn't appreciate being tested. It doesn't, I think it just finds it a bit offensive because it's already given you. I always give this example of, like, it's like having a best friend and they come to you and say, oh, my boyfriend treats me badly and he does X, Y, Z. And you say, well, you should do X, Y, Z. And then they don't do it and they come back next week and tell you the same thing. And then after a while, you stop giving them advice. So that could have happened too. So maybe the client had seen multiple readers and the tarot was just fed up and just said, look, I'm just going to, whatever. I know what you want to hear, so okay. Or, so it might be that as well. I know that's not a very concrete answer, but there's so many things to consider when you're looking at a reading. So just be kind with yourself and trust yourself and say, look, this is just what I got, and stand by it, and know that it might have just been her mental time frame at the time. I hope that has helped. Doing online reading equally accurate to in-person readings? Neha, yes, for me, 100%. For years, I have done in-person readings and I've done online readings too. For me, they are no different. and I explore how to do online readings a lot in my 3-month advanced tarot program. So if you're ever interested in that, just reach out to me at team@saljade.com, because I go into a whole massive modules about, like Zoom readings and email readings and the difference between phone readings and just the different things. Like, there are different things to consider and different ways to use strategies and manage it. But for me, they are still just as accurate. So yeah, that's not a problem at all. Derek, I have a question. When I try to ask about someone's issue outside the room, it doesn't make sense. I can't read anything. Can you give me an example, Tere? I hope I'm saying your name right, lovely. You try to ask about someone else's issue. So, yeah, can you give me an example what you mean by someone else? So, if you give me an example question, I can answer that better. Chelsea, when someone may not mention romance but are looking for information around romance and they ask general, that is what we call a situation where you want to pull your own hair out. So one way you can get around this, there's a few different ways. There's one way, I talk about those kind of advanced stuff. I do talk a lot about that in my 3-month advanced tarot program, but I'll let you in on how I deal with that. In all of your communications with people, I ask up front, what is it you want to know? What's the most important thing you want to know? And I actually learnt that, believe it or not, from the wonderful Kinsey Lee, who did my program last year, because I went and had a look. I was analysing her website as part of the program to what what website should have and what you need if you're going to be a tarot reader. And I was doing a module on that for the program. And I could see on her website, in part of her question with the contact was, what do you most want to know about from this reading? And I thought, gosh, that is a really good thing, because that's what you need to get up front. Like, don't be afraid of asking them. It's much better to do that than do a half hour on their general life and then they've got 2 minutes left and they say, but what about my love life? And you're like, well, that hasn't come through. So generally for me, if someone's asking about a general question and nothing obvious comes through about love, then it means that it's not going to be important this year, or it's not going to be important for that time frame, that other things are going to come up that spirit wants them to know. But as I said, you can get around that by straight away asking, what is the most important thing you want to get out of this reading? So that for me is a way around that. So I hope that helps. And yeah, but if they get to the end and go, but you didn't say anything about romance, go, well, at the moment, nothing's coming up. So just say it's probably not actually relevant. Don't worry, it's not what spirit needs you to be working on right now. Kylie, I did three spreads, general career love with the cups, and pulled 9 of cups in the present position all 3 times. Is it possible that I was attached to that outcome, or simply what I'm in aspects of my life? I would just say, that's a beautiful question. I would say that just means the 9 of cups is surrounding you right now, especially because if that's in the present position. I just say you are right now, and it can help people when you get stuck with cards to think, okay, I don't know what this card means in this position. Say the energy of the 9 of cups is around you right now, and that is a beautiful energy. So that's all that means. It just means that you're being kind of drowned in the gorgeous energy of the 9 of cups. So yeah, that's how I would say that. It just means that that's where you're at. That's your phrase, and it applies to all areas of your life. And it's a beautiful card. It's about your wishes coming true, and you've worked hard to get to this level of confidence, and just to honor that and own that. And that's probably the wisdom it's giving you. It's hammering you on it because it's giving it to you 3 times. But can I just ask, were you only doing a reading from the Cups card, or were you using the full deck? Can you ask that? Can you just answer that for me as well? Amber, I'll just answer Amber's question and then go back to Kylie. Is it okay to do pet readings with the tarot? So there are people that I know have done this, so I'm never going to say nothing's okay, because everyone does anything. For me, I don't understand doing a pet reading with the tarot personally, because for me, you can't tell your pet, okay, you just need to let go and become less detached now to Tommy Cat down the road. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, there's a limited amount that you can teach your pet in spiritual lessons, and the tarot is about learning your spiritual lessons. So, I mean, how would you interpret, again, I mean, this is how I like, if you're not sure if the tarot can be answered by a particular, if a particular question can be answered by the tarot, always just skim through the cards and go, okay, well, how would I answer, for example, justice for a cat? Or how would the lesson of justice be relevant for a cat? And I would struggle with that. So I would say, for me personally, your journey with having a pet, yes, your spiritual journey, but not so much with an animal. It doesn't really work for me. I would, if I was going to do any kind of animal stuff, I would look at animal communicators. And there's some great, I know Claire Bloomfield, there's a lot of great people that do animal communication courses. I would say that they would work better. I'd even say oracle cards would maybe even work better than tarot cards. I just think they're too complex and there's too much arcana in them for it to be applicable to a pet, personally. Other readers might feel differently. Kylie, I generally have some anxiety about reading myself, so I don't feel like I was attached to any outcome, but I got weirded out to pull it 3 times in the position. So I would say, look, again, if it's okay that you've got that anxiety reading for yourself. Some readers never read for themselves and some never read for others. So don't worry about that. You can work through that. Yeah, I think that's just a beautiful message. And look, thank Spirit that it's actually not a 3 of Swords 3 times or the 4 of Cups or, like the 8 of Cups, that it's actually something really beautiful and positive. So I would say, that's just saying, look, fill your heart with self-confidence right now because you deserve it. That's how I would take getting that card 3 times. Tara, I tried to read about my brother and his relationship and I couldn't understand a thing. It's incredible. Great question. For me, ethically, so was your brother in the room with you, or was your brother, did he ask permission? Tara, did he say, hi, sis, can you give me a reading about my relationship? Can you just answer that first and then I can further go on? How much time gap should be between 2 readings? Some say 8 to 6 months, 6 to 8 months. Each time energy and aura is different. Yeah, look, there isn't for me. I know I speak about it in some of my courses. There's no one size fits all. And it would depend on and I often say it depends if you're asking the same question. So say, for example, you want to know about your love life, then I don't see a problem with going and seeing a reader to ask about your love life and then coming back next month and asking about your career, because they're 2 totally different things. But with your love life, I don't think it's a great idea to go and get a big 10 cards Celtic Cross or a 7 card spread from a reader about your love life and then in 2 or 3 weeks' time go and see another reader or the same reader for another reading. Because think about the time frames of what you're giving your people. You're saying to them, to your clients, so in 3 months' time, this is going to unfold, and in 6 months' time or 9 months' time. But if they're coming back before that, then it hasn't allowed those additional months to pass. So you might be jumping the gun too much and it's going to be confusing for the tarot, but it's also maybe you might get the same cards, or it might just, as I said, it might not resonate as much with them because they've still kind of got the energy holding on from that former reading. And that's why, again, I'm not a fan of people that psychic shop and do what I did, my 5 readers in a week. I think it's much better to just allow some space for what unfolds to unfold. You don't have to be a stickler about it. If you've gone to someone for a 12-month reading, I don't see it as the end of the world to come back after 6 months, but to just know that it might not be all laid out yet because obviously there's still elements of the old reading in there. But I know that things change, and also we do make different decisions. That's where we get back to the free will. We make different decisions, and these different decisions can actually put us on another path. So yeah, I'd say try to keep it under a few months at least, definitely with the same question. You're welcome, Kylie. Oh, so my 3-month tarot program. So some of you might have heard about it before, my 3-month advanced VIP tarot program. So that's when I certify you. So I do a live exam with you where I see how you read tarot, and you can get certification through that and qualifications. It's basically a 3-month program where I go through more advanced modules. So I go through symbolism and numerology and mythology and history, and I go into advanced channeling and clairvoyant healing, and I have a whole big huge kind of psychic business program. So this is basically, if you want to be a professional tarot reader, how to set your business up online, how to use everything from Canva and branding and graphics, and how to set up like your website and what your website needs, and looking at how to market yourself on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm about to add Instagram. I just joined Instagram last week. I'm like a little baby on it. So if you're looking for my Instagram channel, it's Sal Jade Tarot, but I'm like this little infant that keeps making mistakes. So if you want to see me make lots of mistakes, go check out my Instagram. But I will be, once I master Instagram a bit better, I'll be adding Instagram at the end. And yeah, it just goes through basically everything that my business mentors have taught me in the past five, 6 years since I took my business online, about how to run an online business, but also going into those more advanced things of looking at the tarot on a much higher level and looking at also clairvoyant healing and more advanced channeling. So there are two ways to do it. You can do it live, which I'm not running this year. I only tend to run it every second year at the moment. Or if you want to start, like lots of people have said, look, I really want to get started now. So you can do it at a discount without the coaching calls. So to do that, just reach out to me at team@saljade.com and let me know that you saw it on in this Facebook Live, and I can give you information about that, because then you can get it at a significant discount. So it's available on the Psychic Healing Academy if anyone wants to go and have a look at it. It's just called the 3-month Advanced Tarot Program. And when it starts, so if it runs, I can't always promise it's going to run, and I'm so sorry for that. It always just depends on my teaching and my husband and our sort of travel schedule and what's going on and where we're living, because we sometimes move a lot. And I want to make sure I'm in one stable place to do it with the group coaching calls. But if I run it next year, it will hopefully be from April to July. That's what I'm looking for, basically. But you can do it without the coaching calls at a discount and start anytime this year. Oh, Kylie, you did just cups. So thank you for asking that, Kylie. So that is a really good point, that remember when you're just doing a reading from one suit, it's always going to be incredibly limited because you've only got 10 cards. So it's never going to give you the full big picture of everything. So when you do, like, and I teach it that way because I just want you to kind of play with it, but don't worry about big, serious, long-term ramifications or consequences or prophecies coming out of a 3-card reading that only comes from one suit, because you're not really going to get the full spectrum. So yeah, I would wait. Like if you ever want to get a serious answer to a huge life-changing question, I would definitely wait till you've got the full deck in there, or at the very least the full minor arcana. Hello. Okay, Tara, so if your brother wasn't in the room, just your mum and you, can I also ask, did you have his permission to do the reading? Because that's also, it's really important that it's not, for me, not okay to give readings about other people. If it was your mother asking about his son, that is actually okay, because it's a different kind of situation. It's there's a bond that goes on between child and parent that seems to transcend some of those ethical things. But even then, the readings can be cloudy when you're doing readings on other people without their permission, because it's ethically really not okay. It's not something that in universal law is recommended at all, for the simple reason that with the tarot, you're supposed to treat people how you want to be treated. I know I wouldn't really like my sisters doing a reading about me behind my back. I know that could lead to some unpleasant text messages. Look, I just think that everybody, if you're ever giving anyone a reading, it's that they don't have to be in the room. You can do a distance reading, but they have to have given their permission to be read on. So I hope that helps, Tara. You're doing your course on Udemy right now and loving it. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. You're a total beginner. And on the night I signed up for your course, Laurette, I had a good friend had a dream about 3 distinct tarot cards. A lot makes sense, but do you hear that often? And should we take that as a past, current, future spread? Look, I don't hear that often, and my hat goes off to you. Like, that to me is a bit of a miracle, and I would say that's a big sign from your guides that you're definitely meant to be doing the tarot. Look, you could definitely take the interpretations of the card and use them, but I would just take it also as a massive sign that you're meant to be doing it right now. And again, you could take additional, like for me, even now, very occasionally I might dream of one tarot card randomly. And I do take that lesson on board. But yeah, that's incredibly rare. And I would also go an extra step, without going too hippy-trippy on you. I would say you probably were a reader in your past life, because that to me is so extremely rare to have that come through like that. But you could take it if it makes sense to you and resonates it. But I would also just take it to mean, oh my goodness, I'm really meant to be doing the tarot. Gia, you showed up at the exact same time to get the information about the course. Awesome. If we take, Boo, I love your questions, B, so I'm calling you Boo. That's my nickname for my husband. I see B-woo. If we take the self-guided one this year, then next year will we just do the coaching calls? Yes. So if you wanted to, a couple of people have done that over the past 4 years that I've been running it, I think, 5 years. So you can just start now, and then next year when you do the coaching calls, just kind of pay the difference of what the difference is between the live and the coaching. Yeah, you can do that, and then you can just show up for the coaching calls. You're absolutely welcome to do that. The only thing I ask with people doing that is that when you're in the advanced tarot, so it's a very small group. I usually only take, there's usually under 50 in there. When you're posting questions in the advanced tarot program Facebook group, just try not to go ahead of where the rest of the group is up to, if that makes sense. Like, just reach out to me privately if you've got questions, because it just confuses people. If, say, for example, I'm up to the section on symbolism and numerology, and other people are only in week 1 or week 2, it can just confuse them a bit. They can think they've missed something. So that's the only thing. But other than that, yes, you can absolutely just do all the physical content now, and then next year jump into the coaching calls. Great. No. So Tara, you had no permission. So yeah, sweetie, my personal opinion is please don't do readings on people without their permission. It's really, as I said, ethically it's not great, and that's probably why you weren't getting anything, because there's almost like I think our angels kind of protect us a bit from other people spying on us like that. And so, yeah, that's probably why that happened. Your mother's worried about the relationship. Look, that is understandable. And I know it's, as I said, even though the ethical line with parents is a lot, the veil is a lot thinner, I guess, it's more okay to do that. But I know it sounds a bit cruel and harsh, but sometimes it's actually not mama's business. Sometimes it actually is just for son to work it out on his own. But if nothing came through, I would just say it's not meant to come through at this moment. But sometimes it will, because as I said, the bond between mums and children are different. And it also, I've often said this before, it depends on what mum, I'm not saying your mum wants to, it depends on what mum wants to use the information for. Because sometimes, and again, I'm not saying your mother does this, but I have known clients and students who have had parents get readings on them designed to manipulate them a bit, like what course should they do, and then going in and saying, well, the psychic told me you should do this course, and your whole life's going to be ruined if you don't do this course because the psychic said so. So you've got to be careful with that. Like, that's kind of impinging on people's own personal right and their journey. And so, yeah, you've got to be a bit careful with readings and that. So that might be why nothing came through. Adriana, you said you don't think it's okay to ask, what does he think of me in the tarot? So Adriana, I do cover that in huge extent in the love readings course. So how to give like psychic romance readings with ease. So I really recommend doing that if you want to ask questions around that. So just ask the question, the problem with the what does he think about me is you're not really asking what it is. Like, no one ever really wants the true answer to that. Because and the funny thing is, again, this is how the tarot doesn't like being tested. At the end of the day, what you really want to know is, this person and I going to end up together? That's what you want to know. What does he think of me is more like, okay, so what if he loves you but just wants to be friends? And how do you say that? Like, or in the tarot, like that might not always come through. Or what if, for example, he can't stand you, he doesn't want to be around you? Like, telling someone that's not great. And what if he can't stand you and doesn't want to be around you now, but in 3 years' time falls in love with you? Like, romances are so complex. Humans are so complex. So what you say instead is, if someone's got their eye on someone, instead of what do they think of me, say, what is it I need to know about a future relationship with this person? Okay, that way you are getting to what they really want. They want to know, is this person and I going to end up together? Like, that's what they want. They don't really want to know what's going, they think they want to know what's on their mind, but really they just want to know they're going to end up together. So be really clear and say, what do I need to know about, what is it I need to know about ending up with this person or being in a relationship with this person? I hope that helps, lovely. But yes, please, as I said, I know I'm going on and on about doing my other courses, but I do give you a lot of examples of how to do that. I show you how to do it. I do these live readings with it, and I show you all different ways of how to manage that particular question. I've got a whole section on it. The what does he think of me, especially if it's heartbreak and stuff, like the ex, like what does my ex think of me? That common question that you will get asked. That's a really good one to nail and to try to be able to look at and see what the patterns are and how to best soothe and help your client, basically, without spying. Oh, Anna, it's good to see so many things here. You got to go to work. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. If anyone's got any other questions, just pop them in. Otherwise, I am going to sign up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wonderful questions. It's been a fantastic session today. And for those of you who, I mean, sometimes people pop on and go, oh, wow, these are great. Can you do more of them? So I do them every second month. But I might not be doing one in April, because in April I will be doing the seminar. So I'll be doing the five key essentials to reading the tarot intuitively. So I might be doing that. Okay, Adriana, great question. What about shuffling cards? You're planning to do a past, present, future spread and one pops out right away. Now, everyone's different with this. It's intuition for me. Sometimes I will, but most of the time I don't. But funnily enough, I do with oracle cards. So with oracle cards, if one flies out, I use it. With tarot, I tend not to, and I don't know why. I don't have a logic answer for that. I wish I did. It's just my intuition. It just kind of shoves it back in there and goes, nope, keep going. But other people go, yeah, keep it in there. So for me, it interrupts my flow, and I don't know why. It doesn't work for me, but I do with oracle cards. So for you, try it both ways. So if you're shuffling and one pops out, then use it in the reading and see if it adds to the reading or if it resonates with the full reading. If you say, look, that really just doesn't make sense to me, then maybe don't do it in future. Oh, that's a great Amber, I hope Instagram goes well for you. Thank you. William, are romantic questions mostly about cups? Sorry, my brain's just shut down with that one. Sorry. Do you mean like, are cups mostly about romantic questions, or when you ask a romantic question, will you mostly get cups? Can you phrase that a bit better? Just so I can answer that. And Dipali, I will answer the Six of Pentacles in a minute. So I'll answer both. Okay. So if you get a majority of cups in a reading, then to me, it's emotion. So don't think necessarily cups are romance. They're more about emotions. And they're about emotional things like intuitive development, like creativity, like our soul, that beautiful feminine soul journey, that soul stuff. Like they're about that effort of opening your heart out, basically. But if you ask about romance and you get a lot of cups and they're positive cups, then yes, that can indicate that there are good things going to be happening in the romantic department. I hope that makes sense. So I hope that, if I phrase that wrong, William, just pop that in for me. Adriana, the shuffle method, just go to the last, I think it's lecture 74 or 75 or 76, and it says how to shuffle or shuffling techniques. Six of Pentacles. Okay, so Dipali, the Six of Pentacles usually, most of the time, will indicate in a general reading, a financial business thing. Like it's all about balance for me. The most likely thing that happens with the Six of Pentacles showing up in a reading is a positive. It's very rarely negative, and it's usually saying there's going to be stability. The sixes are about stability. It's going to be stability in your financial affairs or in your career or in your business. There's going to be stability. What you put in, you will get back out. So it's like that. That's where the scales are. Now, the only negative to this, obviously, and I talk about that a bit, is that sometimes, say you're an employee and you really want to start your own business, and you're like, how long am I going to stay in this job? I want to get out there and start my own business, and you get a Six of Pentacles. It might indicate that, yes, for now, you need to stay because you are getting money back in exchange for your labour. And yes, you might feel there's a hierarchy in balance, because that is often what is the case with the Six of Pentacles. There's a bit of a hierarchy. One, and you can see from the picture, one is usually up below the other. But that is often the nature of stability. Even if you look at how we grow up as children, our parents are, they're our bosses, so to speak. They rule the roost, and you only can do this under my roof, but they provide us with food and lodging. So it's kind of that balance. And that's kind of how I see the Six of Pentacles. You can extend it further and also say, it's about investing in yourself and investing, if you're saying, should I buy a new car or should I take out a loan for a car, and you get the Six of Pentacles, that would say, yeah, that's good. You're going to get a good investment out of that. But again, keep in mind, you're still going to be paying the piper, which is the person you're borrowing, the bank or whoever you're borrowing the money off. So it's not like the Nine of Pentacles, which is a lot more, the Nine of Pentacles is more like the entrepreneur or the person who's coming to their own. They're the master of it. Where the Six is more, you're still kind of the employee, if that makes sense. Feelings and emotions, Joey says to William. Cover. Sorry, Adriana, you've written cover, but I'm not sure what it relates to. If you could let me know, that would be awesome. Lauret, thank you. A bit blown away by it all. Feels so new. Yet my buddy's dream and your enthusiasm has just given me goosebumps. Everyone's, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, look, it is a beautiful journey falling in love with the tarot. It's not always easy. For me, it's a whole huge spiritual journey in itself, like with its ups and downs and its faith and trust and sometimes wanting to throw the deck at the wall and wondering what on earth you're doing in the first place. But just, the more you love it and the more you try and the more you practice, the more it opens up its beautiful doors to you, is my feeling. Sorry, it was for your previous question, just to correct a typo. Oh, no worries. I do that all the time. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope I've answered everybody's question. I think I have. I'll just wait another minute or so to see if I haven't. And if you are not joining me live, if you're not sure if you're live, just check the timestamp and just put #replay, and then I can come in and pop any questions. When you're doing readings about boyfriends, are the knights indicative of them in the Rider-Waite or the Rider-Waite structure? I would say not always, no, because the knight can also represent someone who is immature, who is a woman too. So it's not necessarily means a boy, especially with how fluid gender is right now. So I would say the way I look at a reading about a boyfriend, if a knight shows up, then I would say, yes, this man might have a lot of great qualities, but if you're looking for marriage, he might not be there yet. He's not a king yet. So, and again, if they're in their 20s, they're not going to care. They're going to go, woohoo, so maybe they don't want to get married because if they're young. But yes, if I was in my, again, I don't want to say exactly over 30, but if I was going into my 30s and 40s or late 20s and looking for more stability and looking for a long-term person to have children with, and I asked about the prospects of a current relationship and I got a knight, I would probably consider that person might not quite be ready yet. Doesn't mean they'll never be ready. I would never say to my client, run away. I would, unless there was lots of other heartbreaks or towers or death around in other cards, but I would definitely say this person at this point in time might not be ready to give you the commitment that you are looking for. I hope that helps. Grace, hello, lovely. Thank you. Oh, thank you, William. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope I've answered everyone. I'll go back in an hour or so and pop in some different, if anyone's answered me questions and I've missed it. So I hope that's helped. Adriana, thank you. I don't offer private readings at the moment, so I'm taking a sabbatical from them for this year, and I'm not sure, but maybe next year too, especially if I offer that 3-month program. It's just a timing thing. Like I just have, generally it's just I don't have the time for it because of my teaching schedule. Coronavirus in particular, because so many people who bought my course, say, 4 years ago and suddenly had all this time to do it. So I've got more students and more questions. So I'm not doing readings at the moment. But if you are looking for recommendations, just reach out to my assistant at team@saljade.com. And I am going to be also doing and adding to my website, people who have finished my 3-month VIP certification program, a list of them as well. So you can also look on that. So I'm hoping to do that in the next 2 months. So I hope that has helped. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you all in the next couple of months. And again, if you've got any questions, just pop them in here. Okay, bye.